The invitation wasn't an invitation. It flashed into our family group chat in all caps like a command. No gifts, just help, with a photo of string lights draped over a rented tent and neat rows of white folding chairs. I'm Elena. I'm 35. The circulation supervisor at our city's public library, and the older sister who brings an extra extension cord because someone will forget one. Francesca is 29, charismatic and always late, and she's engaged to Quentin, who's 31, and decent with a grill but not with budgets. Our parents are Herbert and Angela. Dad is 64, Mum is 62. Solid people who love a clean resolution and a good sale at the grocery store. When Francesca's text landed, I was at the returns cart, sliding mysteries and romances back into place on autopilot. The group chat started lighting up with reactions. Dad sent a thumbs up like he just signed up for a community cleanup. Mum sent a red heart and, "Can't wait!" A minute later, Francesca texted me separately, "We'll need you early. You're good at systems." I stared at the screen, the smell of old paper and hand sanitizer mixing around me. At lunch on Wednesday, she called in a pinch again, and I'd put the $220 chair and tent deposit on my card to hold their delivery slot for Saturday evening. On Friday, the bakery had asked for a card for the $150 cake balance to be charged at drop-off, and I read my number into the phone. None of it had posted yet, just pending authorizations, but the money was sitting on my credit limit like it lived there. I typed, "What time?" and got, "Can you be here by 4? Guests at 6. A follow-up pinged into the family thread. "We'll assign stations so it runs smooth. Teamwork, assign stations." I pictured a name tag at my own sister's house, a smile pasted on while people I knew handed me plates like I was part of a volunteer shift. My stomach did that small flip it does when something looks normal on the outside and wrong in the middle. At 2:15, I clocked out. I took the long aisle past the book sale table, down the back stairs and into the parking lot that hummed like it always does on a hot day. My car is a grey Corolla with a stubborn air conditioning knob. I swung by the supermarket and bought foil pans and a stack of napkins because we always run out. They rattled in the trunk next to the collapsible cooler I keep there out of habit. My apartment is a 1-bedroom 10 minutes from Francesca's rental, the kind of place with thin walls and a nice view of the maple in the courtyard. I changed into a navy sundress and practical sandals, braided my hair back and checked the time, 3:30. I didn't feel like a guest, I felt like a shift lead. The chat kept buzzing. Francesca dropped a screenshot of a spreadsheet with food prep, drink station, trash and plates, games, and photos. Names were slotted into boxes. My name wasn't on it yet. She sent a photo of the backyard, the rented tent up, the string lights sagging in the heat, 2 giant grey trash bins tucked at the side of the patio. Quentin had already lined them with contractor bags. He'd also texted the group, "Got ice!" like it solved something. I set my phone face down and packed a small tote, sunscreen, a roll of tape, a Sharpie. I'm good at making things run. I'm also tired of being expected to make everything run just because I know where the tape is. Francesca called while I was slipping my car key into my bag. "Hey!" "Okay, last minute plan," she said, bright and breathless. I could hear voices and a distant drill. "Can you get here right at 4? "I'm assigning the stations and I need you for a key one." "What's the key one?" I asked, even though I already guessed. "You're just the most efficient," she said. "I want the flow perfect." "I put the deposit on my card," I said, keeping my voice even. "And the cake." "I'd like to be a guest tonight, Cess." "This is you being a guest. You love helping." I didn't answer that. She chatted about lawn games and a neighbour bringing a folding table. I said, "I'll be there at 4, because I don't pick fights over the phone." She hung up, sounding relieved. I sat on my bed for a second and stared at the tote. It's always these small things. A spreadsheet, a compliment that is also a trap, me quietly ready with the Sharpie. Dad texted me separately. "Need me to pick up anything?" That's him, steady and practical. I wrote back, "No, I'm good," and tossed the foil pans into the back seat. On the family thread, Mom wrote, "So proud of you girls," with 5 hearts. Francesca added a selfie from the backyard, braid over one shoulder, sunglasses on top of her head, perfect tan, and teamwork makes the dream work. I locked my door, checked the stove even though I hadn't cooked, and stood in my breezeway with the sun hot on my shoulders. My phone buzzed again. The last text before I left home popped up from Francesca. Elena, we'll put you by the trash cans. You move fastest. Francesca's side gate sticks if you don't lift as you slide, so I did the little wiggle I've done 100 times and stepped into heat that felt like a hairdryer. The tent was already up. White canvas, glowing, string lights draped but not plugged in. The yard smelled like sunscreen and cut grass. Finally, Francesca called like I was late. It was 3:59. She was in a linen romper, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on top of her head. Quentin was crouched by a cooler, cracking bags of ice open with a key. He'd set the grey contractor bags in the trash bins like a scout knot, neat and tight. Before I could say hi, she pressed a black server apron into my hands. Heavy twill, long strings. You're by the trash cans. Keep plates moving, she said, voice pitched just a bit louder than normal. Melanie from next door, floral dress, a sand-coloured visor, looked over and smiled like I'd signed up for a shift. Violet, 2 doors down, stood with her arms crossed, a red solo cup already in her hand. Francesca pointed toward the bins. We need you right there, she said, tapping the clipboard. Trash and plates has to stay tight or it all bottlenecks. Heat crept up my neck. The apron's fabric dragged across my skin and smelled like starch. I saw the map in my head, me behind the bins, rinsing sticky forks into a bucket, smiling as people grazed past. I also saw the pending charges on my credit card app. The $220 deposit sitting like a placeholder for a promise. The $150 cake balance waiting for a driver to ring a doorbell somewhere between 5 and 7. Quentin popped up from the cooler and gave me a quick, guilty wave. Hey, Elena, he said, then looked back at the melting ice like it needed him personally. Melanie chirped, So organised. Violet didn't say anything, just lifted her brows at Francesca's clipboard. Says, I said quietly, holding the apron. I told you I wanted to be a guest. You are, she said, eyes on her list. And you're the best at this. Look, I put Mom at photos so it's fair. She smiled like she'd solved it. Dad's on Grill Assist with Quentin. It'll be fun. The hum I get in my ears when I'm about to say something I can't unsay started up. I swallowed it. I looked around. The card table with paper plates stacked too close to the edge, the citronella candles, the cooler sweating into the grass, the tent poles anchored with sandbags. A rental truck rumbled somewhere on the block. Kids' voices floated from the front, that high, excited sound that means scooters on the sidewalk. Francesca angled her body toward me, as if to block my exit. We good? She asked, bright. I set the apron on the patio table, right on top of her clipboard. I brought foil pans, I said. My voice sounded steady to my own ears. They're in my car. Perfect, she said, relieved. Can you... I'm not doing trash, I said, still quiet. I'm not doing stations. I let my hand rest on the apron for a second, like I was making a decision at a store counter. Then I took my hand back. The air went flat. Melanie's smile faltered. Quentin glanced up again, then away. Violet watched me like a neighbour who's seen a fence repaired wrong and is waiting to see if anyone else noticed. Francesca blinked. Okay, but... Elena, I need you there. You move fastest. She laughed, a thin sound. Come on, please. Don't make this a thing. I looked at the bins, at the black mouths of the bags gaping open, at the way she angled her body like a gatekeeper. I thought of the bakery woman confirming my card on Friday, her polite voice saying, We'll just run it when we deliver. Saves time. I thought of the last barbecue where I ran the kids' table with glitter stuck to my elbows while Francesca took photos in good light. I didn't make a speech. I didn't have one. I picked up my tote, turned and walked back toward the side gate. Elena! Francesca called, confusion cresting toward annoyance. Where are you going? Car, I said over my shoulder. I'll be right back. It wasn't a lie when I said it. I hadn't decided anything bigger than getting out of the heat and the spotlight of her voice. The gate scraped as I slid it open. The sidewalk out front was bright and white hot. A couple I didn't recognise stood near the curb debating whether to move their Prius. Someone's dog barked at a squirrel. I heard the rental truck a few houses down, a diesel idle sitting on a single note. I unlocked my Corolla and got in. The seatbelt was hot against my collarbone. I closed the door and let the world go muffled. My hands were steadier than I expected when I set the tote on the passenger seat and pulled my phone from the pocket. I looked at the family thread lighting up with little bubbles. Mom sending "almost there" and a photo of a fruit tray in her lap. Dad's "traffic on Pine is a mess." Francesca's name popped up at the top of my screen as an incoming call. I declined it and opened my email. 2 subject lines sat right there from this week: rental reservation confirmation and order number 8741 cake delivery. I tapped the first. Then I scrolled to the contact section and hit the number. In the driver's seat, with the air finally blowing cool across my forehead, I made 2 calls. The rental company picked up on the second ring. I read the order number off my confirmation email and spelled my name as the rep typed. "Okay," she said, brisk but not unkind. "I see a tent, 36 chairs, 2 tables. There's a card on file for the hold." "It's my card," I said. "I want to remove my authorization. I won't be on site." She paused just long enough to click something. "We can deliver, but without the cardholder present, we'll need payment at drop-off. If no one can pay, the driver won't unload." "That's fine," I said. "Can you put the on-site contact as Francesca at this number?" I read my sister's phone number. "I'll add a note," she said. "Removing your card means the hold will drop off. Your bank may take 5 to 7 business days. There could be a separate cancellation fee if the order is refused." "I'm not cancelling delivery," I said, just taking my name off the payment. "Understood," she said, typing. "It's updated. The driver's already routed for late afternoon." "Great," I said. My hands were steady until I hit end. Then I noticed the tremor. I tapped into the bakery email and called the number at the bottom. A bell chimed on their end when they answered. It sounded like the front door opening. "Order 8741, I said. "White cake with raspberry filling. The balance is on my card right now. I need to remove that." "The remaining is due at delivery," the woman said. "We have a card to run." "It's my card. Please don't run it. I won't be there." Another pause. "Okay, we can switch it. We don't leave cakes without payment. Card or cash on arrival only." "Good," I said. "The delivery address stays the same." She repeated Francesca's street and time window. "We'll text when we're on the way." "Please make the contact my sister," I said, and gave her number again. "And my brother-in-law, Quentin," I added his. "We'll note both," she said. "Just so you know, if no one pays, the driver returns the cake, and there's a redelivery fee." "That's their choice," I said. "Thank you." I ended the call and let my forehead rest against the steering wheel for a second. The AC was finally working. The vents hummed against my skin. It felt like taking a tag off a shirt and dropping it in the trash. Francesca's name flashed on my screen. I watched it vibrate, then fade. Another call came in immediately, Mum this time. I put the car in gear and pulled away from the curb before my resolve changed shape. The drive to my apartment is 10 minutes. Pine was backed up, like Dad had said, but the lights worked in my favour. I parked under the maple that shades my side of the building and took the stairs 2 at a time. Inside, the air smelled like coffee I didn't finish this morning. I kicked off my sandals and set my tote on the table. I boiled water yesterday for pasta and hadn't even put it in a container. It was still in a glass bowl covered in plastic wrap. I slid a scoop into a skillet with a splash of water and turned the burner on low. The ordinary sound of it, the faint hiss, the metal expanding with heat, snapped my spine back into place. I was home. I was not standing next to a trash bin with a name tag that didn't exist. My phone buzzed on the counter, the flat insistence of an unknown number. I didn't pick up. A text came through from that same number. Driver at gate. Payment? I looked at it for a beat, then set the phone face down. The pasta loosened and went glossy in the pan. I added a spoon of jarred sauce and stirred. The unknown number called again. I pressed the side button to mute the ring without declining. The sound cut off. My apartment went quiet except for the skillet. Another text stacked on the first. No one here to pay. We can wait 10. Francesca lit up the top of my screen next. Where are you? Caps and no punctuation except the question mark she didn't bother with. Then, they're not releasing the chairs. This is ridiculous. On the family thread, dots bloomed and popped like a weather radar. Mum, is this a joke? Dad, what's happening? Quentin, hang on, switching funds. The unknown number, need card or cash at drop. Francesca again. Elena, answer your phone. I turned the burner off and plated the pasta. I sprinkled the last of the parmesan from the jar, like a snow that knows its place, and carried the bowl to the table. Another call from the unknown number. Another from Francesca. I took a breath and tapped out a single text to Francesca. I'm not the contact. Please handle with the vendor. Then I slid my phone to do not disturb and ate. The first bite was nothing special. Leftover noodles, tomato, a little salt, a little garlic from the sauce. Still, it did the job. The hum that had lived in my body all afternoon backed off an inch. Across the room, my phone lit up periodically like lightning behind a cloud. The group thread stacked. They're asking me at the gate, came from Quentin. I moved money, but it's pending. Can you just... He didn't finish the sentence. Mum added, I'm 5 minutes out. If they just bring them in, we can settle later. The unknown number, company policy, payment to unload. I put my fork down and took a sip of water. My breathing stayed even. The part of me that would usually cave just this once, just to make it easier, stayed quiet. I'd made my calls, the rest wasn't mine. By the time I rinsed my dish and set it in the rack, a final text from Francesca landed. Not all caps this time. Are you really doing this right now? I dried my hands on a towel and didn't answer. Outside, a truck passed on the street, low and steady, like a storm still a few houses away. I scraped my bowl into the trash and turned off Do Not Disturb long enough to check the damage. The screen filled itself. 4:42 p.m. Unknown number. At gate now. Need payment to unload. 4:43 p.m. Quentin. Trying my card. 4:44 p.m. Quentin. Declined. Daily limit. 4:44 p.m. Francesca. This isn't funny. 4:45 p.m. Quentin. Moving funds. 1 sec. A minute later, a string of bubbles from Francesca. She'd switched to our family thread, maybe to get Mom and Dad to lean on the driver. They won't bring the stuff in, she wrote. Melanie and Violet are literally watching this. A photo came through from her. The rental truck nosed up to the curb, hazard lights winking, a guy in a neon vest leaning on the open back door with his arms folded. The tent poles were visible in the shadows like bones. In the foreground, Melanie's visor flashed in the bottom corner, accidental and unmistakable. 4:49 p.m. Quentin. Okay, money moved. Try again. 4:50 p.m. Unknown number. Payment accepted. We're unloading. I could just about hear the sigh through the text. The next photo from Francesca was the guys carrying a bale of folded chairs down the driveway, while Quentin jogged around to open the side gate. I set my phone down and stretched my legs along the couch. The cushions were warm from the day, fabric holding the last of the afternoon heat. I turned the ceiling fan up 1 click and let it hum. 5:03 p.m. New text, another unknown number, different area code, bakery on the way. 10:15, 5:04 p.m. Same number. We have a card on file. 5:04 p.m. Me, to that thread. Do not run it. Contact Francesca at this number. I typed Francesca's number and Quentin's again and stepped back out. The dots appeared, then stopped. A minute later, in the family thread, Francesca again. Cake wants to be paid. This day is cursed. Then a screenshot of the neighbourhood Facebook group popped up. It was a post from someone I didn't know. Profile picture of a dog. Last name I recognised from a mailbox on Francesca's block. A wide shot of the truck at the curb, string lights drooping across the frame. caption, "Wild energy on our block today," Mum replied with a single "oh dear." Dad sent just the eye emoji and then followed it with, "Let's keep things off the neighbourhood page, please. 5:19 p.m. Bakery number, at gate, 5:20 p.m. Francesca in our thread, "I paid." Can we stop talking about this now? No photo that time, just a finality. I pictured her swiping her card with her jaw tight, the bakery box heavy and cold in the carrier's hands. Quentin probably holding the door with his foot, trying to make himself useful in the smallest possible way. By 5:40, the messages thinned out. Someone, Dad, sent a picture of the grill finally going, smoke curling up past the tent edge. He'd captioned it, starting a bit late. All good. The paper plates were on the card table, now pulled away from the edge like someone had caught them about to slip. Chairs were set in rows under the tent, gaps where people would angle them after the first plate of food. It looked like a normal backyard party if you didn't know the truck saga that had gotten everything there. A side message from Violet buzzed my screen. I don't know how she still has my number. She texted me once last year about a book I'd recommended. "Your sister is managing optics like it's her job," she wrote. "Melanie is narrating for her Instagram, FYI. I sent back a polite, "hope it goes smoothly." Violet added a single ghost emoji and left it at that. At 6:07, Dad called. I answered because it was Dad. "Hey, kiddo," he said. In the background, I could hear tongs clicking and the faint rise and fall of two conversations at once. "You home?" "Yep." He exhaled through his nose. "I don't like the apron thing either," he said, slow, like he was picking his way across a creek. "This needs fixing." "I know," I said. "I told your mother loud as I'm able to," he said. I could picture his expression, the one he wears when he's determined to be fair, even if it means a longer night. "I'm grilling, so I can't get into it here." "You don't have to," I said. "Thanks for calling. You deserve to be a guest," he said. And then someone shouted his name, and he said, "Gotta flip these. We'll talk tomorrow?" It wasn't a question that needed answering. "Tomorrow," I said. After we hung up, I scrolled once through the family thread. Mum had posted a boomerang of the string lights finally lit. Quieter than I expected. A caption of community, with stars. Francesca had put up a filtered selfie in front of the tent. Her smile turned to the good side, Quentin a blurred shape behind her. Comments rolled in from cousins and neighbours. "Looks amazing." Wish we could be there. The part of me that used to soften at posts like that stayed where it was. At 6:22, Mum texted me separately. "You embarrassed your sister." I stared at it. 3 dots came and went. Another text landed. "Call me. Now." On Sunday, I didn't call Mom back. I let the day go on mute. A couple of cousins posted photos from the party. Quentin at the grill, Francesca with a sparkler, kids playing cornhole in the dusk. And I scrolled past without tapping the hearts. I did laundry, returned a library hold to the night drop like a civilian, and kept my phone flipped over on the counter. By Monday, the familiar rhythm of the library settled me. The Circ desk computer woke up slow, the book drop thunked. A regular asked me if we still carry the large print crossword books. At 12:20, I took my break and sat in my car with the windows cracked. The maple above my space threw a mottled shade across my windshield. I unlocked my phone and the group chat jumped to the top. Overnight, there had been a handful more comments from the neighbourhood thread about that rental truck drama. Melanie had tagged Francesca in a post about pulling it off with style. Violet had liked it and nothing else. I closed the app. I thought about the apron in my trunk still folded the way I left it on the patio table. I thought about the quiet places these patterns had grown. Francesca's just help jobs never felt like favours on their face. They were logistics that slid into my days like they already belonged there. I could pull them up like files. The vet bill, her cat had eaten a ribbon last winter. She called me from the clinic parking lot crying, "They won't release her unless I pay up front and my paycheck hits Friday." I put $380 on my card and got paid back in 3 instalments stretched through March. The last barbecue, I was so good with kids, and got parked at the craft table for 2 hours while Francesca did laps with a camera. I went home with glitter on my elbows and a sunburn. The week she borrowed my car because Quentin's brakes are making a noise, and I got it back 7 days later with the gas light on and a new rattle in the passenger door nobody heard. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad, a photo sent without context. Paper plates and plastic cutlery stacked on a card table, sunlight pooling across the concrete. I recognised the corner of Francesca's patio and the scuffed leg of the table Quentin had dragged out of the garage. No caption, just the picture. It read like, "I saw it. I saw where she put you," I typed. "Thanks for calling me, Saturday." He sent back a thumbs up, and after a full minute, "Just because you're good at something doesn't make it yours to carry." I stared at that until the screen dimmed. Zoe knocked on my passenger window with the side of her hand. I startled and then hit the lock. She slid in with an iced coffee, sweating rings onto her palm, and handed me a granola bar. "You didn't come in the staff room," she said. "Figured you were hiding." "I'm not hiding," I said. Then I shrugged. "Maybe a little." She listened while I laid out the weekend in order, the apron, the 2 calls in the car, the truck at the curb, and Francesca performing in front of the neighbours. Dad's quiet call, Mum's not quiet texts. I didn't have to embellish. The details did the work. Zoe chewed, eyes on me. "You didn't blow up," she said finally. "You took your name off the checkbook." "I keep thinking maybe I went too far," I said. "Or not far enough." "Goldilocks can take a seat," she said. "You set a boundary. Don't turn it into a think piece." I laughed because I couldn't help it. It sounded like relief. "Mum's mad." "Of course she is," Zoe said, matter of fact. "She's been leaning on your predictability. Now she has to adjust. She will." We sat a minute with the AC running low. Outside, a kid on a scooter rattled over the sidewalk crack and whooped. The maple leaves flicked sunlight around like coins. "Are you going to say something in the group?" Zoe asked, gentle but pointed. I opened the family thread. There was a check-in from Mom that morning. "How's everyone's week starting?" And a photo of a mug with foam on top. Francesca had posted a story last night that said, "Community is everything," over a montage of the party, but hadn't said anything to me directly after her caps lock barrage. I typed and deleted twice. Then I kept it simple. I won't fund or staff events where I'm not treated as a guest. No exceptions. Zoe leaned over to read, nodded, and said, "Clear." My thumb hovered over send for a second that felt longer than it was. Then I tapped it and watched the message slip into the thread like a small stone dropped into a deep pond. Dots bloomed, then nothing. Then Dad reacted with a check mark. A minute later, Aunt Prudence's name flashed at the top of my screen like a storm on the horizon, but no message came through yet. I locked my phone and set it face down on my knee anyway. "I have 5 minutes," Zoe said, crumpling the granola wrapper. "Want to walk to the corner and back or sit here and breathe?" "Sit and breathe," I said. We did. When my break was over, I slid the phone into my tote. It buzzed as the car dinged and I turned the key to off. I pulled it out on the sidewalk because I already knew who it would be. Francesca's reply pinged into the thread. "You know how stressed I am. You're making this bigger than it is." Mom called before my shift ended, right on the dot of 4 Sandhang, like she'd set an alarm to catch me between patrons. "I don't want this to fester," she said, without a hello. Her voice had that brittle brightness she uses when she's trying to move a conversation to a safe lane. "Family sticks together. Your sister was under a lot of pressure, and you walking out, well, it created a scene." "I didn't walk out to create a scene," I said. "I stepped out of a role I didn't agree to." "You know what I mean," she said, sighing into the receiver. "Could you come over tonight? We'll talk this out. You can apologise for how it looked, and she can—" "I'm not apologising for leaving," I said. I kept my voice level. I told her I wanted to be a guest. She handed me an apron and announced my station to the neighbours. Silence. Then the clink of her spoon on a mug. "You're both good girls," she said, defaulting to a script from when we were 12. "Let's not let other people see our mess." "They already did," I said. "That part isn't on me." She blew out a breath, the sound small and irritated. "I have to start dinner," she said. "We'll revisit this." Then she hung up like she'd set a boundary of her own. An hour later, Francesca posted a slideshow to her feed. Filter smoothed, captions chirpy. Candids of people laughing under the tent, string lights twinkling, a close-up of the cake like it had just appeared on angel wings. The caption: community is everything. Heart hands emoji. I watched the likes roll in from cousins and old roommates and neighbours who'd been there. No one posted the truck. Then a separate text from Francesca slid into my messages, not the family thread. Can you host a neutral brunch next weekend? She wrote. We can talk without drama. Your place is calm. Neutral. I read it twice. In our family, neutral always means my time, my groceries, my dishes in the sink after. What does neutral mean to you? I typed. Not at my house. She wrote immediately. People have associations now. The pause between bubbles stretched. I want to fix this. I set the phone on the counter and opened the drawer with the spare envelopes. In the family thread, Aunt Prudence finally landed her opinion. Neutral means Elena pays and cooks. No emojis, just a period that felt like a doorstop. Alec reacted to her text with a laughing face, then added, not wrong. I smiled despite myself and typed to Francesca. I won't host. I'll meet at Ritter's Diner, separate checks. A dot, then nothing, then, fine. What time? I asked. Tomorrow at 6, she wrote. Quentin and I can come after work. Okay, I said. I'm inviting Dad. No bubble for a long beat. Then, why? Because this keeps landing in group chats, I wrote. I'm not doing he said, she said later. Fine, came back again. It read like a splinter she hadn't managed to pull out. I put my phone down and pulled a notebook from the drawer. I started a list at the top. Money I fronted this year. The pen bled a little on the first letter. Vet bill for the ribbon incident, $380. Paid back in uneven chunks, still $40 short because the last instalment got lost in a Venmo request that expired. Kids craft supplies in May, $48.79. Glitter, foam shapes, glue sticks, by C markers that went home in tiny fists, never reimbursed. Gas after car loaned for a week, $43 fill up, plus the rattle I paid to have checked out, $20 to the kid at the garage because he tightened a bolt and waved me off. Foil pans and napkins for Saturday, 12 all down to 35s. Small, but not invisible. The Miesi streaming service I've been carrying since college, $17.99 a month. A note to myself to cancel autopay. I flipped through my email and printed the rental reservation confirmation, circled the $220 hold that sat on my card all week like a squat guest in a small chair. Next to it I wrote, authorization removed before delivery, tied up credit. I printed the bakery email too and marked my call notes, removed my card, balance paid by recipient. By the time the printer cooled, my envelope was fat with paper that told a story I didn't have to narrate. I slid everything inside and wrote Francesca on the front in block letters, not a threat, just a record. Zoe texted a single thumbs up when I told her we'd set the diner. Sit facing the door, she added. Always feels like you can leave if you want to. I made eggs and toast and ate at the counter. My apartment did what it always does when I need it to. It turned down the volume on everything outside. The maple brushed the window screen. Somewhere a downstairs neighbour laughed at a sitcom beat. At 8:13, Dad texted. Heard there's a meeting. I sent him the time and the place. A minute passed. I'll be there, he wrote. It's time we get clear. Ritter's Diner smells like coffee and hot griddle no matter what time you walk in. I got there 5 minutes early and took a booth near the window. The vinyl was split at the corner of the seat. The table was sticky with syrup in one patch you couldn't see but found with your wrist. I slid the envelope onto the formica in front of me and sat where I could see the door, like Zoe told me. Dad came in at 5:58, hat in his hands even though he only wears it outside. He slid into the seat beside me, not across, and nodded at the envelope like he knew what was inside. You ordering? He asked. Coffee, I said. Separate checks. He nodded again. Francesca and Quentin arrived at 6:04 in a little rush. Francesca's hair was still damp from a shower. sunglasses tucked into the neckline of her shirt. Quentin looked like he'd come straight from work. Collared shirt, sleeves rolled once, the edge of a grease stain at the cuff. "Hey!" Francesca said, hovering. "Sorry, parking." "Separate checks," I said, before anything else. It came out neutral. The server appeared like she'd been waiting for that cue. We ordered coffee and iced tea and a plate of fries to put between us so the table had something on it besides paper. When the drinks landed, I slid the envelope toward Francesca. "I brought this because I don't want to argue about memory," I said. "This is what I've fronted this year and what sat on my card this week." She made a face at the word fronted and opened the flap. The receipts fanned out, vet bill statements, the craft store slip with glitter stuck to the corner, the email printouts for the rental, and the bakery with my notes in the margins. At the top was the list I'd written last night. "We're really doing receipts," she said, trying a laugh that didn't stick. "Elena, this is..." "Clear," Dad said, not looking at me. He was watching her, his jaw set in the way that kept us honest growing up. "Read it." Francesca scanned. Her eyes stuck on the rental sheet. "You didn't get charged for the chairs," she said, triumphant for a second. "The hold sat on my card for a week," I said. "It blocked $220 of my credit until I called and removed it. Quentin paid at drop-off like the policy says." "Good. That's what should have happened. It still cost me bandwidth and a limit I needed." Quentin touched his glass, turned it a quarter inch. "We'll make it right," he said quietly. "And the cake," Francesca said, defensive dropping a notch. "I paid that." "You did," I said. "That's also what should have happened." She folded the list once, then unfolded it, buying seconds. "I didn't mean to embarrass you," she said softer. "Saturday got away from me." "I'm not here for an apology about a feeling," I said. "Here are the terms. Invite me as family, not staff. If not, leave me out. I sleep fine either way." I tapped the envelope. "I'm asking you to cover what you owe and what sat on my card, and we're done carrying the streaming service. You two can set up your own." Dad's mouth twitched like he wanted to smile but didn't. He looked at Quentin. "Seems fair." Francesca bristled. "We've always shared the logins," she said. "It's not a big..." "It's in my name," I said, and pulled out my phone. I opened the banking app, scrolled to the monthly auto-pays, and tapped the streaming service. "Cancel," I said out loud so no one could mistake it. The little spinner went around once, and then the confirmation popped up. "Effective at the end of the billing cycle," I read. Quentin's phone buzzed immediately, a notification for a lost connection on their TV at home, probably. He grimaced and then looked at Francesca. Under the table, I saw his knee shift and touch hers. I opened my payment app and sent a request. $220 for chair deposit hold, $40 outstanding vet bill, $48.79 craft supplies, $43 gas, $12.35 foil pans. I added a note. Tied up card. Prior balances. Francesca's phone lit up face down. She flipped it and stared at the totals. For a second I thought she'd argue line by line. Then she exhaled, long and slow, thumb moving. A minute later, my screen pinged. Payment received. "Okay," she said, voice small and stiff at the same time. "Thank you," I said. That closes it. She looked at Dad then, looking for a softer route, but his face had that hard line at the cheekbone that meant there wasn't one. "It's not that I don't appreciate you," she said to me. I thought you liked having a role." "I like being asked like a guest," I said. "If I want to bring a salad, I'll bring a salad. If you want to hire help, hire help." Quentin cleared his throat. "We can budget for that," he said, more to Francesca than to me. The server set the fries down in the middle. No one reached for them. We talked logistics for 5 more minutes because that's where we all know how to live. Dad's birthday is in 3 weeks. Mum wants to do ribs. The grill at their place needs a new propane tank. I said I'd be there as a guest. No stations, no assignments. When the checkbooks came, the server laid 2 leather folders down and looked at my face. "Separate," I said again, and she nodded like she'd been keeping score. We paid. Quentin tipped well and tucked the receipt under the salt shaker. Dad stood, stretching his back the way he does when he's done having a hard conversation. He squeezed my shoulder. It said more than anything he'd said at the table. In the parking lot, the air had cooled a little. Francesca lingered by my car door like she was weighing something. She looked younger for a second, or maybe just less practiced. "I brought this," she said, pulling something out of her tote. Not an apology exactly. A folded printout of her station spreadsheet from Saturday, the box next to trash and plates slashed through with a thick line of ink. She held it up, then dropped her hand. "I won't do that again." "I heard you," I said. I opened my car and put the list with the rest of the papers in my tote. "Okay," she said, and for once didn't try to hug me into a reset. She nodded at Dad across the lot, then back at me. "See you at Dad's." "See you at Dad's," I said. I got in, shut the door, and let the quiet settle. In my rear view, I watched them walk back to their car, Quentin touching the small of her back, Dad heading for his truck with his hat back on. The envelope sat on the passenger seat, thinner now, enough said. 2 days after the diner, Francesca texted me a short apology that didn't try to sell me anything. I was wrong Saturday. "No excuses. I want you at Dad's birthday as a guest. Please come," I wrote back. "I'll be there. No stations." She replied, "As a guest, I promise." In the weeks between, life went on the way it does. Work was steady. Zoe asked how the stream cut went and I told her I'd cancelled it. Quentin texted me a screenshot of a new login and a thumbs up. "We got our own. About time," he wrote. One afternoon, when I swung by Francesca's to drop a bag of serving spoons she'd accidentally kept, Melanie was watering petunias across the street. She lifted her hand and said, "Easy as anything. Good for you." Like the truck and the clipboard had taught a lesson outside our family too. Dad's birthday landed on a Saturday, like we talked about at the diner. Mum had replaced the propane tank. The backyard I grew up in smelled like ribs and charcoal, the good kind of smoke that makes the block feel like a Saturday movie. I pulled up with a store-bought salad in one hand and a wrapped book tucked under my arm, an author Dad likes. A large print edition, because he pretends he doesn't need it and then uses it anyway. When I walked through the gate, no one was holding a clipboard. There was a teenager from down the street posted near the trash can with earbuds in, exchanging plates for a grin. He had a folded 20 sticking out of his pocket like a merit badge, and a paper plate balanced on a cooler, 2 slices of cheese pizza cooling in the shade. "Ethan's helping," Mom said, joining me at the card table. Her voice was regular sweet, not brittle. "He'll get $20, and pizza, and first dibs on cake. He's thrilled." "Good system," I said. I put the salad on the table. No one asked me to rearrange anything. Francesca came out the back door with a stack of napkins and stopped in front of me. No sunglasses, no performance. "Thank you for coming," she said. "As a guest." She glanced at the teen, at Dad at the grill, at Quentin lining up buns on a platter. "We're covered." Quentin met my eye over the platter of buns and mouthed, "We're good," then nodded toward the kid like he'd finally understood how simple some fixes are. Guests drifted in and found their own seats. Alec gave me a chin lift from a lawn chair. Aunt Prudence stood near the lemonade, watching everybody with that hawk gaze of hers. When I passed her, she tipped her cup at me. "Cash on the barrel head. Lovely to see it applied," she said, then called across the yard to Mom. "Angela, you finally bought extra ice? Miracles!" I laughed, and Mom rolled her eyes at Prudence the way she has since high school, which felt like another old groove we were finding again. Dad flipped ribs like he was turning pages, tongs clicking, his face relaxed. "Grab me that towel?" he asked, and I did, and he touched my wrist grateful. Dinner went the way family dinners are supposed to go. People talked over one another about nothing important. Kids ran circles around chairs. Zoe texted me a photo of a cat in a bow tie from some unrelated corner of the universe, and I sent back a picture of Dad at the grill. No one pointed me toward a trash can. After cake, white frosting, chocolate inside, candles that relit twice just to annoy him, Dad squeezed my hand under the table. He held it there a second longer than normal. "You were right to draw the line," he said. He didn't make it a speech. He didn't need to. Mum leaned in from my other side and set a small container of leftover ribs near my purse, like she used to with Tupperware in the old days. "Take some home," she said. "You're not cooking tonight." "Thanks," I said. Her mouth tightened at one corner, then loosened. "It was nice having you sit," she added, like it cost her a few cents and she was willing to pay. As people started to stand and drift around the yard again, Francesca came up behind me with something folded in half. She pressed it into my hand. Heavy twill, familiar weight, the black apron. "I won't do that again," she said, quiet enough that only I heard it. I looked at her. "Okay," I said. Not a truce signed in public. Just an agreement moving forward. On my way to the car, Violet's text buzzed my phone. "Saw the photos. Chairs look better when you're in one." A little ghost emoji after, out of habit. I sent back a smiley and a picture of Dad with icing on his cheek. I loaded the salad bowl and the container of ribs into my trunk and tucked the apron next to them. The sun was sliding down behind the maple on my parents' fence, the light doing that soft golden thing that makes every yard look cared for. In the driveway, Quentin was gathering empty soda cans into a bag, while Ethan snapped off the last of his pizza and asked Mom when cake round 2 was happening. Ordinary, which is all I'd wanted. I hugged Dad, squeezed Mom's shoulder, told Francesca I'd text her about the book club lineup she'd asked me for and meant it. We were not speaking. We were just speaking differently. On the drive home, the air through my open windows smelled like cut grass and charcoal. The apron slid in the trunk when I turned, a soft thump against the side. I thought about the next few weekends, the way they didn't have hidden assignments tucked inside them anymore, and felt that click in my chest I only get when something lines up how it should. At a red light, my phone lit up with a message from Zoe. "How'd it go?" I typed at the next stop. I sat. I ate. A teenager cleared plates. "Dad had a good day." She wrote back. "Perfect." I parked under my maple, carried the leftovers upstairs, and left the apron in the trunk. My calendar on the fridge was mostly empty, just a couple of penciled-in library meetings, and Dad's birthday crossed off with a neat line. It looked good that way. It looked like mine.